Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And remember, I got you. I have good news for those who are interested to move to Canada. Remember, I'm going to share you all these videos. So remember to watch this video up to the end and drop your comments, ask me questions, and I'll get back to you. All right, let's start. Alright, so this video is for those who want to migrate to Canada under the sponsorship. So I'm going to talk about what it entails for you to be able to make a smooth transition from your country of origin to Canada under the sponsorship program. What does it entail? I'm going to break it down into smaller details so that you understand and help you to grasp this information. Sponsorship. As a nation with a commitment to family reunification and keeping loved ones together, Canada offers a number of immigration programs that give Canadians the opportunity to sponsor their family members to Canada. So, under the sponsorship overview, what does it entail? All these questions and answers, they have all of them. So, what is a family class sponsorship? Canada offers sponsorship program for permanent residents or citizens of Canada that wish to bring their loved ones to Canada. These programs allow certain family members to become permanent residents of Canada. One of the most popular streams of Canada immigration family sponsorship program make it easy for citizens and permanent residents to bring their spouse and immediate family members to Canada with reduced processing times because Canada knows that families should never be put on hold. So who can I sponsor to come to Canada? Spouse, common law or conjugal partner. You may be eligible to sponsor your spouse, common law or conjugal partner for Canadian permanent residents, whether they are living in Canada with valid temporary visa or residing abroad. Applicants who are living in Canada may also qualify for an open work permit, giving couples the chance to relieve some of their financial burdens. A spousal open work permit gives sponsored individuals the ability to work in Canada while their sponsorship application is being processed. Since Canada recognizes common law partnership, you may be eligible to apply for a spousal sponsorship if you and your partner are not married but have been living together for a period of 1 year. Parent or grandparent sponsorship. Canada commitment to family reunification extends to parent and grandparent of Canadian citizen and permanent resident through the parent and grandparent sponsorship program. In order to sponsor a parent or grandparent, citizens and permanent residents will be required to demonstrate that they can financially support their family by meeting the minimum necessary income for the size of their family unit. They must also agree to financially support their sponsored family members. If needed, sponsors who are unable to permanently support their parent or grandparent may be eligible for a super visa, a long-term multiple entry visa for parents and grandparents of Canadian citizens and permanent residents. Child or other dependent citizen. If you're a migrant to Canada, you can choose to include your children as a company depending on your application for permanent residence. However, if you choose not to include them or are otherwise unable to do so, they may still be able to join you in Canada later. Canada Child Sponsorship Program allows Canadian citizens and permanent residents to sponsor their biological or adopted children under the age of 22. 4. Permanent resident as long as they are unmarried and have no children of their own. A child over the age of 22 may be considered a dependent if they suffer from a physical or mental condition that prevents them from being able to support themselves financially. Often brother, sister, nephew, niece, or grandchild. In some specific instances, Canadian citizens or permanent residents may be eligible to sponsor their orphan brother, sisters, nephew, niece, or grandchild to come to Canada. To sponsor your orphan relative, they must be unmarried under the age of 18 years old and related to you by blood or adoption. Other relatives, under exceptional circumstances as a lonely Canadian. In some rare circumstances, Canadian citizen or permanent resident may be eligible to sponsor one extended relative to come to Canada. To sponsor a relative that falls outside of Canada's current family class definition, sponsors must be considered a lonely Canadian. This means the sponsor has no spouse, common law partner, child, parent, or grandparent. So how can I be eligible to sponsor a family member? To sponsor a family member, you must meet minimum eligible credit requirements, which are Be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. 2. Be at least 18 years old. 3. Live in Canada or plan to return to Canada once your spouse or permanent or partner become a permanent resident of Canada. The last one, be able and willing to provide for the basic financial needs of your family member for 3 years. Who isn't eligible to sponsor a relative? There are some cases in which permanent residents or citizens are not eligible to sponsor. If one of the below scenarios apply, applying, a sponsor may be ineligible if they are 1. Are currently in prison. So a sponsor isn't eligible to sponsor a relative if, for 1, you are currently in prison. 2, may have not paid alimony or child support payments. 3, have declared bankruptcy and are not yet released. You have declared bankruptcy and you're not yet released. The other reason, receive social assistance for reasons other than disability. Another reason, fail to pay back an immigration loan, made late payments or missed payments. Another reason, have previously sponsored another relative and failed to meet the terms of the sponsorship agreement. Another reason, have been convicted of a violent crime, any offense against a relative, or any sexual offense, depending on the details of the case. So how much does it cost to sponsor a family member in Canada? If you're sponsoring your spouse and are dependent and they have dependent children, or if you're sponsoring your adopted child, a $150 Canadian dollars payment will be required for each child included in the application. If you are including the spouse or partner of your relative, an additional 1,050 Canadian dollars required. The government processing fees to sponsor a relative in Canada are listed below. For example, sponsorship fee is around $75 Canadian. Principal applicant processing fee is around 490 Canadian dollar. Right of permanent residency is around 515 Canadian dollar. Biometrics is around $85 Canadian, and total is around 1,165 Canadian dollars. If the sponsor resides in Quebec or intends to reside in Quebec, upon the issuance of permanent resident, an additional fee of 310 Canadian dollars will need to be paid in addition to the fees mentioned above. All right. So what is the income requirement for Canadian family sponsorship? All this information you get. Do I need a job to sponsor a family member? How long does a sponsorship take? What other options do I have to bring my family member to Canada? How many relatives can I sponsor to Canada? Sponsoring a family in Quebec. Canadian sponsorship background check. Canadian sponsorship. All these are questions that people have and they expect answers. So I'm going to continue this video up to the end. So please watch. Because all this information is very important and it's going to help you to have a smooth transition to Canada for those who are considering sponsoring their relatives. So what is the income requirement for Canadian family sponsorship? Well, you are literally required a certain amount of money. So minimum income requirement apply to one sponsorship applicant, including parents, grandparents, eligible orphan relatives, or those eligible under the Lonely Canadian policy. It all varies and it all depends. You can get all that information under the Canadian.org website. Do I need a job to sponsor a family member? To sponsor a family member other than a spouse or partner, applicants must meet the MNI, the minimum requirements. While a job is not necessarily required, sponsors must provide proof of sufficient income from the past 3 years to support their sponsored family members. How long does a sponsorship take? This is a very good question. Sponsorship applications take approximately 12 months to process from start to finish. They are typically processed in a period of 12 months, but they can take longer depending on the nature of your case. If you have a complicated case or the visa officer requires additional proof of your relationship, your application may experience delays. The best way to ensure your sponsorship application is processed as quickly as possible is to make sure it is done right the first time. The lawyer and legal professional the lawyers and legal professionals, they're available. You just have to find them and they'll give you all the information required. What other option do I have to bring my family members to Canada? If sponsorship is not an option, your relative may be eligible under another Canadian immigration program. So you can check all that information under the Canadian.org website and you find what other way you can move to Canada. if you're not qualified under the sponsorship program. How many relatives can I sponsor to Canada? There is no limit to the number of eligible family members a Canadian permanent resident or citizen can sponsor. However, applicants must submit separate applications for each eligible family member sponsored. Sponsoring a family member in Quebec, what does it entail? The federal government gives Quebec more autonomy in determining who will settle in their province. For this reason, permanent residents or citizens that reside in Quebec must first apply to the Quebec Ministry de Immigration de la Française Integration for approval to sponsor the eligible family members. MIFI is responsible for approving sponsorship undertaking for sponsors living in Quebec. Canadian sponsorship background check. All individuals over the age of 18 applying for Canadian permanent residence must provide a police clearance certificate to confirm they are not criminally admissible. Applicants must obtain police clearance from all countries they have resided in for 6 months or longer since the age of 18. They want to know, have you broken any laws? Are you law-abiding citizen? That's what they want to know. Canadian sponsorship biometrics. Canada requires most immigration applicants to provide biometrics. Of course, you can get all that information under the Canadian website on how to get their biometrics under the sponsorship program. Also, under the medical exam, definitely Canadian government website, it has all this information. You can get all that, and you can Google, you get all that information. So how do I check the status of my sponsorship application? If you apply for a spousal, common law, or dependent child sponsorship, you may track your application status using Canada Permanent Resident Application Tracker portal. If you're sponsoring another family member, you can check also the government website, you get all that information. Is there a deadline for Canadian sponsorship applicants? Eligible Canadian citizen and permanent residents may apply to sponsor their spouse or child at any time. Candidates applying to sponsor their parent or grandparents must be invited to do so and apply within the deadline provided. Can I sponsor my brother or sister to come to Canada? It is very difficult to sponsor your sibling to come to Canada as a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. This may only be done if you meet the criteria of a lonely Canadian, or if your sibling can be included as dependent on your parental sponsorship application. Can I sponsor my fiancé to come to Canada? Canada does not provide an option for Canadian permanent residents or citizens to sponsor their fiancé to come to Canada. Canadian citizen and permanent resident must get married to apply under the spousal sponsorship category. Alternatively, it may be possible to sponsor your fiancé to come to Canada if they qualify as a common law partner. Can I sponsor my boyfriend or girlfriend to come to Canada? Canada does not offer a program to sponsor your boyfriend or girlfriend to come to Canada. You must be common law partners or married to sponsor your boyfriend or girlfriend to come to Canada. In very specific circumstances, Canada permanent residents and citizens may be eligible to sponsor their conjugal partner. Can I sponsor my friend to come to Canada? Canada does not offer any program for a permanent resident or citizenship to sponsor a friend. If your friend is interested in immigrating to Canada, they may be eligible under another immigration program. Is there an age limit for sponsorship in Canada? To sponsor a family member, Canadian citizen or permanent resident must be at least 18 years old. There is no maximum age limit to sponsor a family member to come to Canada. Can my spouse or common law partner work in Canada while their inland spouse sponsorship application is being processed? This is a good question. If your spouse or common law partner is living in Canada with a valid work permit, they may continue to work without interruption until their visa expires. If they are living in Canada with a valid study or visitor's visa, they may be eligible to apply for an open work permit that allows them to work while the application is being processed. I am adopting a child. Do I need to wait until the adoption is final before I begin the sponsorship process? No, you can begin sponsorship if the adoption is in the final stages. So guys, all this information, all these questions and answers, they're going to help you to have a smooth transition in your way to Canada. I really hope it has helped you. This is under the sponsorship program. The people who have these questions, these are very popular questions that you can get them on Google, and I've given you the answers. So thank you so much for watching this video up to the end. If you have any questions, please, my comment section is open. Drop those questions and I will get back to you. Guys, also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. My name is FaizaNeshikaTravels, and this channel is called FaizaNeshikaTravels, and I hope you getting this information is useful to you. And if you have any topic whatsoever you want me to cover, please let me know in my comment section, and I'll do my best to create videos under those topics you have mentioned. Thank you so much, and God bless you. And please don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, bye bye and God bless.